Hey there, how are you doing today? And we are here. We're excited to start the week off by giving you guys a lot of great information about loans, and really exciting to be talking to you guys about the latest updates in regards to loans. And for that, I have here one of my preferred lenders, and I say one because we have several lenders we're working with, but Loan Depot, Juan Aguirre, for obvious reasons. We've partnered up for many years in helping more families. So we definitely want to give you guys that update on what's going on in the loan world, and really some exciting news for your team as well, Juan. So please take it away.
So yeah, Nora, it's a little bit more towards announcements today, right?
Yeah.
I do have a surprise though with something that corporate sent over from Loan Depot earlier today. I think. Are we live? Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the first couple announcements is that we're now, my team in particular is doing, obviously, Loan Depot does all states in the United States, but my team personally is now going to be doing loans in Texas, Oklahoma, California, and Arizona. We're planning to add a few more throughout the year, but those are the ones that we can officially do loans in as we speak. Okay.
Excellent. So many of you guys. So hopefully, again, you're adding, what is it, 4 states?
We're adding 4 states. So we hopefully can start helping people in those states and get familiar with the down payment assistance programs in those states, because that's something that we specialize in. And so we're happy to announce that and to start getting people that want to apply and see how we can help them, how our team can help them in those states.
Excellent. So we know that over the last year, we've seen just a lot of people moving to Las Vegas, moving out of Las Vegas, and so our team has really begun to see the growth, across state lines. And so for that reason, we're super excited to be able to have you be able to partner with us in specific programs, niche programs with your bank, Loan Depot, which is in all 50 states, and really have your team cater to those customers in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and California, right?
That is correct.
In addition to Nevada, my friends. So again, here in Nevada, I want to say this as well. I want to just put it out there, because last week we had the recognition. You specifically were recognized for being one of the top agents here in the area of Las Vegas, but really nationwide, being on the top 250 list for Hispanic lenders in the country. And we say we heard it because he wasn't there to accept the award, but his team and obviously himself have been able to get that award for here Las Vegas, right? So in this effort to expand to other states, other cities, we're excited for that. I think we're going to be able to kind of work together with the teams that we have in those cities to really do what we love to do here in Vegas, which is help a lot of the first-time home buyers, a lot of the first-time investors really get started and use real estate for what it's intended to be, right? An amazing vehicle for creating wealth. So tell us a little bit about your signature programs, things that are kind of happening on the loan side, Juan.
Right. So the program that I've been a huge fan of, for the better part of this year, is the Home is Possible program, and then a new version that they added the beginning of this year, Home First, which many of you have affiliated with the $15,000 grant, and so that program is called Home First. Okay, and so that's one of my that's one of the programs that we've used the most for down payment assistance. And that's one that I'm very familiar with, and I like the most because it's, in my opinion, probably one of the most applicable programs for most first-time home buyers. There's definitely an array of down payment assistance programs out there, but in many cases they're not applicable because they have certain restrictions, like you have to live in a rural area, which obviously people that live here in Las Vegas, that's not going to work for most parts, and there's different things. We can go on and on about the restrictions of down payment assistance programs, right? But home is possible and home first. I found that is one of the most applicable ones, and it's one of my favorite ones.
For first-time home buyers specifically, but when you're talking about products that have to do kind of like with, buying your second home and all of this, which is more
Yeah,
like,
which is something that I wanted to mention. Obviously we have, and one of the things that I think is not going to be a challenge for our team of us expanding into these different states and doing loans there is because like I was telling Nora the other day, everybody. And I think that it is correct to a certain extent, depending on what type of real estate you're buying. But a lot of people say that real estate is local, right? So something that happens, in Miami, maybe their houses go down by 30%. That doesn't mean that that's going to happen in Las Vegas, right? Or vice versa. When it comes to mortgages, though. I think it's a more national industry to where, guidelines and loans, obviously there's going to be a couple of things that may change from state to state, but for the most part, everything's pretty much very uniform when it comes to loans, right? So the loan products that we have here in Las Vegas are going to be the same loan products that we have in pretty much all the other states. Guidelines, everything else is pretty much the same. So all a lender really has to do is pretty much know what the borrower's debt to income ratios are, and fit that in with the local real estate taxes and insurance, because those are going to be the major factors that are going to be the deciding factors on the loan, and it's not something that's gonna it's numbers, and as we all know, numbers are a universal language, so it's not going to change. Things are not going to change drastically from one state to the next.
Excellent. So we're happy, we're excited for this opportunity. And again, I know that you specifically have, and this has been going on for months, my friends, as well. I want to make sure that I make a point to say that because over the last, I would say at least last 4 or 5 months, I know that you guys threw out an incentive specifically for our customers where you guys are able to help with basically supporting them for their closing cost, a certain percentage. And there's 2 options, right? A 2% help and then a 1% help. And so that's exciting for us. Please, can you kind of go into that a little bit in detail right now?
Right. Yeah. So what I told Nora, because of the partnership and everything else, that for the people that for one reason or another did not qualify for down payment assistance, whether it be a guideline that disqualified them, whether it be their income doesn't fit within the income limits, things like that, things of that nature, that I as a lender was willing to help up to 1% for conventional loans and up to 2% on FHA loans for closing costs, pretty much. Not for down payment I'm sorry, not for down payment, because we won't be able to use lender credits for that purpose, but we could help out with closing costs and buy down of rates, within those ranges. 1% for conventional, and up to 2% for FHA.
So it's exciting, my friend. So that's additional support for you guys, especially for those of you that may not qualify for the down payment assistance programs that are out there. I think this offers you an option and an opportunity if you don't qualify. If you qualify, once you call and your team, takes care of them or handles the process. And if you do qualify, excellent. But if you don't, you know that you have the support as far as getting this kind of the contribution directly from Juan and his team. Juan, so can you walk us through the process if there's, if you're a first-time home buyer or if you're trying to buy your second home, you already own a home. Let's split it up into to those 2 different things, right? So if you're a first-time home buyer and you're interested in knowing more, or you're interested in understanding what options you do have at your disposal, can you walk us through the process of what a buyer would do or needs to do?
Yeah, didn't quite understand your question, Nora, but one thing that, and we can touch on that right now. One thing that I did want to mention, I think has along the lines with what I heard you say, is that a lot of people sometimes they have the misperception. I've had very recently a customer, think that because they already owned a home and they were going to buy a second home, not as an investment, but as their second primary, that they needed to come in with 20% down. And I said, no, that's only applicable if you're strictly buying the property for investment purposes, right? So if you're buying a second home and you're buying that property as your primary residence, you would still be eligible for a minimum down payment, like a 5% down on a conventional loan, right? If you don't have an FHA loan, you still qualify for an FHA loan on your second home with 3.5% down. It's just that most of the time there's some restrictions with doing an FHA loan on your second home, and so most of the time it ends up being that on your second home you're going to do a conventional loan, but you are eligible for those loans on your second home or third home, depending on what you're doing. But it doesn't mean that because you own more than one home that you're automatically an investor on your next purchase.
Excellent. So that's for, somebody that already owns a home, wants to possibly upgrade or downgrade, because we're seeing some folks sell that big house and buy something smaller.
A lot of that going on
Yep,
right
a lot
now.
of that. So depending on where you're at, that second property, 5% down. Excellent. So the process, just in general, for someone that wants to understand or wants to see where they're, what are their options when it comes to the loan, to their down payment, what would that look like? Can you walk us through that through that process?
Do you
excuse me.
mean the pre-approval
Yeah,
process?
the pre-approval process, somebody that's brand new that doesn't
Sure.
kind of know, wants to buy and has that kind of the hope, but doesn't understand if
Yeah.
they're ready or not. Yeah, walk us through that process.
Yeah, we do this every day, all day long. So it's a very, a simple process. And even if you're a person in a situation where you don't feel that it's gonna be something where you're gonna be buying a house next week or next month, or that you need to do work on your credit or your income, it's actually a good idea to do the process anyways, because then you can at least have a qualified loan officer, lender, tell you where you stand, and then you can work on those things moving forward versus working on things that you may think that are right, but you're not 100% sure, right? It's better to work on the things that are going to get you to that position where you can be eligible to get a mortgage and ultimately buy a house, right? So the process is very simple. Just doing a loan application with my team, with me over the phone, online, or in person, okay, and providing a very simple list of documents, right? It's mainly identification like ID, and your income documents like pay stubs. If you're self-employed, we would need your tax returns for the most recent year, possibly the two most recent years of tax returns, and then your bank statements, right? The most recent bank statement, possibly two, and that's pretty much all we would need as far as documents are concerned to pre-qualify somebody and know where they're at. Obviously, if it's a situation where you have a more complex situation, you already own 3 or 4 houses, we might need additional documentation there. But for the first time, as Nora mentioned, for a first-time home buyer, those are going to be pretty much the only documents that we're going to need and do a loan application. Anybody can do a loan application, under 5-10 minutes online. So that would work, or doing it over the phone with us or in person would also work.
So what I would suggest, so once a person has done that, Juan, they've submitted the documents, they've done their application, then usually you review their file, you review what programs. How do they know if they're approved for any sort of program or anything any sort of incentive out there? I'm sorry. So how would they know that? Can you kind of give us a brief description?
For our team, if you're a first-time home buyer, like all the clients that we have, we're gonna always look into whether they qualify for down payment assistance or not. So it doesn't matter whether you submitted that on the loan application or suggested it through the loan application intake process, we're gonna always look on whether that person would be eligible for a down payment assistance or not.
Perfect.
So we
So
would let them know.
you're going to
their
scan
options.
through that, and if they are approved, great. Then you're going to let them know kind of the options, right?
Yeah, because qualifying for down payment assistance is very simple. Pretty much if you are a first-time home buyer, you qualify for it, right? Where it starts getting, where it gets a little tricky is debt to income ratio guidelines that the down payment assistance programs have are what sometimes either you qualify for very little if you want to use down payment assistance programs, or for example, people that make over the income limits. So, technically every first time home buyer is going to qualify for the assistance. But, if let's just say somebody qualifies for 300,000, but if we want to implement the down payment assistance, that pre-qualification goes down to 200. They technically still qualify for down payment assistance. It's just that they would have to buy they would have to buy a property under that price, which sometimes is what becomes the challenge, right?
Gotcha. So basically, the options are once you've given your information, done your approval, then you'll be notified kind of what are your options, right, as far as the loan. And so sometimes, my friends, one of the biggest and the most important parts is we are so anxious sometimes to really get started shopping for the house, and I get it. I understand completely why. It's the most exciting portion of purchasing a property. But the reality is the true value and the importance of the process really is in the loan. Because if you take your time to get pre-qualified, you take the time to review your options there, then when you understand the numbers, you understand your program, you can go out there and shop, right? With confidence, you can be 100% clear. And from there, your real estate agent really takes you in and shows you what's on the market within your budget and really starts working on negotiating something for you. But the loan process is such an important piece of this great puzzle that you're going to be able to kind of get through the process and buy your house, that I want to say that you don't want to do this process fast, or you don't want to do it, cut any corners, because something later on down the line might come up, and maybe it'll create kind of a little bit of a bump. It'll create some issues in the future. So the idea is this process, the more thorough it is, for me, the better, and for you as a customer, it absolutely should be, right? Can you let us know a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Nora. But I would say we can also move fast. There's some clients that want a fast response. They already have their mind made up of what they want. They might even already have a house picked out or something that they
Nice.
liked, and they need to submit an offer on it right away. And we can move very fast. All we would need to do is, do the loan application, pull credit, and get the minimal amount of documents required that I just mentioned right now. And it's a very fast process for me to, or any loan officer can pre-qualify somebody under 20, 30 minutes if they have everything that they need in front of them. Possibly even less than that. Where it becomes tricky, Nora, and I think that's maybe what you're.
Yeah, I think that's where I was absolutely wanting to lead to. Yeah.
Yeah, where you're trying to take that conversation is that as long as you guys disclose everything, the loan application or the loan pre-approval application, is very thorough about the questions that it asks. So as long as you guys are being honest, and you guys disclose to your loan officer, like, hey, this is my situation, or you answer the question and maybe you tell them, if it's something that maybe it's not the best response, but you maybe explain to your loan officer what the situation is, they can a lot of times figure out the solution, or it's a very simple situation to resolve. But it's very important that the loan officer knows of that situation up front, because then the loan officer, for example, I can figure out a way that we can resolve that, or an alternative versus we're already in escrow. We're being pressured by Nora's team, by the listing agent's team, like, hey, you have to close in, 15, 20 days, or we have to know whether the loan's going to be approved or not within the next 10, 15 days. And we have a situation that we find out on our own by, obviously by digging deeper into, because any bank, it has nothing to do with the loan officer. Any bank, any lender, they have an underwriting process.
Yeah.
So when
Which is a
you're,
thorough process.
yeah, when you go into contract on a specific property, they're gonna look at everything that we submit, and they're gonna try to look for any discrepancies, anything that may not, anything that might not look accurate, and they're going to try to take it apart. As a loan officer, we obviously also look at everything that we submit and make sure that everything aligns and everything looks like whatever we put on the loan application. And usually we don't have a problem. But when the underwriter finds out about something that even we didn't know about, then that's when we get put in a situation where
Yeah.
we have very limited options on how to resolve that.
So
that
the most
issue.
the most important part is if you are ready with your documents and really the approval, you're saying it can be as fast as 30 minutes. But if there's more there, or you have maybe you are self-employed, maybe you declare tips, maybe you don't, maybe you receive cash. When you have that type of scenario, maybe it'll be a little bit more time for you to get a response from the bank. But again, it's worth taking that time so that everything can be reviewed properly, and that way when you have your approval, you're ready to go.
Usually, when we review a loan application and client's documents, we have either we approve them. Rarely do we do it under conditions, but sometimes I can tell usually what the situation is going to be, even if I'm missing a piece of information or a document. I can already tell kind of what that document is going to come up, going to be, or what that missing information is going to be. It's very rare that we do it, but usually if there's something missing, if everything aligns, we'll still pre-qualify a client. Conditionally say, hey, we just need these documents. But most of the time, it's just if we pre-qualify a client, it's because there's really no doubts, and then we're ready to move forward at that point. Or we just say like, hey, this client doesn't qualify, and we say, we inform the client, these are the reasons why you don't qualify, and we always offer possible solution or possible alternatives on what they can do to maybe turn that around or make that situation different. Right now, usually by adding a cosigner to a loan is usually one of our biggest things that we're running across. And then the third thing would be if we're just missing certain documents to be sure of what we're trying to do with that pre-approval, then that's when, like Nora says, it's worth to give it those couple extra days so that I can get what I need and make sure that when I tell you, hey, you can qualify, you qualify for this loan under these terms, that it's not going to change later when I find out, about something that I didn't know or that I'm waiting on. Sometimes we have to wait for employers to verify certain things, like if somebody has a large income but it comes in the form of tips or bonuses and things like that. Sometimes we have to verify that to make sure that the underwriter is going to let us use it, right? So, like Nora says, sometimes it's worth to give it a couple extra days so that pre-approval, that you're not going to start shopping for a home, and that something is going to go wrong with your loan once you're already committed to that property or fall in love with the property.
Correct. So Juan, tell us a little bit about then, just to finish off today, just give me a little bit of your insight, your opinion, professional opinion on kind of the future of the real estate, the real estate market, the housing market, the loan market, just, kind of as a whole? What do you think? How do you feel about it? And should folks out there still look at it as an option? Is it something that you would recommend, to your family member? Would it be something that you make a decision on executing yourself? Please let us know.
It's
It's a big, long question.
It's a very tricky question, Nora. I think anybody, including yourself or myself or anybody in the industry, even as professionals, I think everybody would want to know the answer to that question. And I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, we can have our opinions and our perceptions, but I think that what has happened these last couple of years teaches that there's a lot of elements that and factors that we can't predict. And so what I tell everybody right now, clients and sales agents, is that if you look at your numbers and you look at your current situation, and if it makes sense for you to make that step forward, I think that there's no in my mind, I don't think there's a specific time or a specific timing, because that's we got a lot of clients, Nora, I don't know if you remember, in 2020 and 2021 that wanted the perfect time to go into the market, and they waited, and right now they're still looking for a house, or they're still trying to buy a house.
Yeah.
And so I think trying to time the market is in a lot of I think the savvy investors, that's what they tell you, right? Not just in the real estate industry, but stocks, things like that. They always say it's not in. I sometimes have a different opinion to that, but usually what the outcome proves is that those heavy investors are right. It's almost impossible to time the market, and it's very difficult to time the market. So it's really not a smart thing to do. It's not a smart thing to try to time the market. I think the best thing that people can do right now, I think we're in a very tricky market where even very smart people that I follow and respect, that pay close attention to the market, to the economy, things like that. A lot of them, all they can do is offer this is what's going on, this is what this means, but they're all suggesting that it is a tricky market, and they don't know exactly what is going to happen, and there's only a number of things that they suggest that could happen, but at the end of the day, it just leaves it open to there's a number of things that could happen with the market. I personally think in regards to the market, I think that interest rate is definitely a hot topic, and so I think the markets are going to probably move with depending on where the interest rates move, right? What the Fed ultimately does in their upcoming meetings, things of that nature. I think that for right now is what's going to, because we're probably not going to see the effects of all the stuff that's going on in the market into the future, right? So
Correct.
In the immediate future, I think it's just going to move with whatever the interest rate is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the more the interest rates go up, it's going to put pressure on the affordability of houses. So we've already been through that, and we did have a slowdown at the end of last year, beginning of this year, where a lot of the markets even retracted a little bit and started going down in price, but that lasted very little, and we had a rebound almost immediately after that. So I don't necessarily feel that there's going to be huge changes one way or the other. For me, the coolest thing would be for interest rates to drastically drop, but that's also a difficult notion, because then since there's shortage of inventory in most markets, a lot of the markets, I know Las Vegas has a shortage of inventory. That wouldn't necessarily be a solution, because it's just going to create a lot of mayhem in the
Demand.
market.
Absolutely.
So it's a difficult situation. What I would tell a first-time home buyer is to get pre-qualified, to know their numbers, and to look for an opportunity, right? if you're not buying any single buyer unless you're an investor, or a big hedge fund, you don't need to buy tens of thousands of houses or hundreds of houses or even two or three houses. You just need to buy one house, right? So I think if you're in a position to buy, you're in a situation where it's time to buy. I don't think that you let the current market conditions affect that mindset. I think it would just be equally, it would be a good thing to get pre-qualified, and then try to find the best possible house that you can buy within the numbers that you feel comfortable with. And that would be my suggestion. I don't think that's a bad situation, no matter what happens in the next couple of months or in the next couple of years. I don't think you will be in a difficult situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we agree on that for sure. I also, I talk to you guys a lot about just really being motivated and really looking at the numbers of what you've done, how you spent your money as a renter all of these years, and really figure out where that has ended up for you today. Like, there's absolutely no benefit for you today. There's no sort of savings or equity. And so when you become a homeowner, although you may buy or purchase the property, let's say at a high price, and let's say you're paying a high interest rate, yeah, but guess what the difference between renting and buying is that you have a date. When that date comes, you will be the owner of that property. And yeah, the date may come 30 years later because you're in a 30-year mortgage, but there's a date, right? There's a promise of a date when this payment will no longer exist for you because you won't owe anything. But when you're a renter, that date, there's no date. It will never come. You will never stop renting. You will always need to find another property or another rental. If you need a place to live for the next 60, 70 years, guess what? You're going to be in this cycle forever. But when you become a homeowner, you have a date, and that's 30 years from now. And so whether it's expensive or it's a cheap home, it'll be paid off in those 30 years. So make sure that you make the decision for the real estate that you're doing today. You make it for the long haul, one, and then two, just know and hope that in the future, when rates do come down, once you've purchased that property, that you basically can renegotiate your interest rate in a later, in a different market, in a better market. You can renegotiate those interest rates and possibly knock your payment down, like a lot of people do, $200, $300, $400, right? When that time comes. So again, there's a lot more hope, there's a lot more control when you are a homeowner, when you do have that. As a renter, you don't. So again, we want to give you guys, these different points of view, these different ideas, so that hopefully you come to the decision of moving forward and buying your first property, so that again, you have a date in mind of when you're going to be able to have it paid off completely, right? And there's people, I'm talking about a 30-year mortgage, which is the typical and the normal. There's a lot of people that make this type of decision and say, no, I don't want a 30-year mortgage. I want to pay it down in 15, 20 years. Excellent. Whatever that date is, it is for you. But at least you understand that there's a date, right, for you to pay that off.
And the only thing I would add to that is I think a lot of people get stuck on maybe, they have an idea of the type of home they want to live in, or they've seen it. They see online the type of houses they want to get into, and then when they look at the prices and then the payment with current interest rates, it's just a complete a factor that completely demotivates them, and that happens to a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
But Nora's talking about building equity, about not being a renter. Sometimes I see situations where, people want to purchase and they want to make the jump from living in an apartment into a house, right? That's a big jump. So when you compare the rent of an apartment versus the rent of a 4 or 5 bedroom house, that's a completely different number, right? So.
Yeah.
I think, we can't, right now is definitely, not a time where we can expect that we're going to go from renting into a much better property that we're currently renting and be able to save money on rent, right? Whether it's rent or paying it off on a mortgage. But real estate does create equity. So if you're a first-time home buyer, maybe you don't buy, that perfect house or that specific house that you were looking for, but you stop becoming a renter, and maybe with time you build some equity to where in the near future you could possibly get into that situation, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are looking at this video right now, yeah, so if you are looking at this video right now, my friends, if you're looking at this video, we had a little bit of a discrepancy here. Gio, our DJ Gio is over here helping us get this all situated. But basically what the goal for us is for you to really see the opportunity and do not let anybody distract you from that opportunity, or if it's the right time for you right now. And if you have to start with your first step being maybe a townhouse, maybe a smaller house, maybe that's where you start and you move up from that, right? I can tell you guys a lot about my story. I started off with a townhouse, that being my first property, small property, because that's what I could afford. A couple years later, I was able to get into a home much bigger. So the idea is that first step when you become, when it's your first property might be way smaller than that dream home that maybe you envisioned, right? And that's okay, because at least you're taking one step forward, and you're doing something about it, and you're not no longer considered a renter. Now you're an owner, even if it's of a townhouse, of a condo, manufactured home that it may be, you're still the owner of that. In the future, you will have equity if you stake, if you look at it in the long haul, it'll build equity as well, like everything does in real estate, right, over time. So my invitation is just, yeah.
And then maybe next, because, I like to, when I'm giving advice.
I want to pause it. So just so you guys know, it's so hard for me to get Juan on video. He doesn't like being on video. I
do like being on video. It's just,
he doesn't.
I don't have
he
time.
Doesn't, he doesn't like being on video, and it's a hard thing for him. So I love that he's able to continue to talk to him. That's why when he's on video, I try to not say as much, so that he's able to take the floor and really kind of share with you guys his thoughts. So I'm glad that he's able to kind of share more. So yeah, let us.
No, I just when I give advice to people, I always like to kind of put myself also in the shoes of if I was that person, right? So does it make sense? So I'm definitely not the type of person that likes to give advice on something that I know maybe won't be applicable, right? So for example, if somebody puts a down payment assistance program out there that nobody qualifies for, right? So what's the point of doing it, right? What's the point of having that if nobody's going to be able to take advantage of it, right? So we're saying, right now what we're trying to say with Nora is that a lot of people, we're telling people, if you can't buy, an expensive house or the dream house, go with something smaller. But we find that, Nora, in the market, you're the realtor, so there's not a lot of inventory below certain prices, right? So I think it would be a good idea. Maybe we can challenge Nora, but at the same time, I think it's something for all of us, and I'm willing to share with her on that. Is that we kind of maybe come up with some strategies on your next segment on what we can do with that, because I think there is a lot of people that are intrigued with the idea of maybe buying something as least on the
least expensive, right?
in the
least
lower price
yeah.
points.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no inventory, so
there's not
we
a lot
have
of
to.
inventory, absolutely not.
So we have to maybe throw out some strategies so that people can actually implement buying. Let's just say inexpensive house, a cheap house. I don't like saying cheap. That's why I'm trying to find a different word for it. But let's just say something on the cheaper end of the marketplace,
less expensive,
that they can still finance, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's livable, right?
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right, for them to buy. But I think that's very important. I think for people that are in a position to buy, if you can get yourself into something where you qualify for it, and then the numbers also make sense for you, I think it's just a matter of finding the right property to do that. And right now, it's I know it's not going to be easy, but if you get pre-qualified and you're in a position, there's always opportunities that come on the market, but
Yeah.
you have to be ready. You have to be available to look at those opportunities and to ultimately
Take action, right?
take action.
Take action, absolutely.
And finalize that, right?
Yeah.
Then that leads on to something else down the road, and we have countless. I can say that we have countless of situations and clients that can attest to saying that if it weren't for that first if it wasn't for that first ugly house that they bought with us, they wouldn't have been in a position to buy, a really nice house a couple of years down the road, right? So that's you have to get in. What I'm trying to say here is that you have to get in at one point or another into the market, and maybe right now it's not the best time in history, right? But you have to get in at one point, and as long as you find the right house, if you look at that, 10 years back, even 5 years back, you should still be in a good situation if you make the right purchase, right? So,
Absolutely.
I don't like to compare real estate with stocks because it's two completely different worlds. But a lot of savvy investors also say, obviously, we can't go back in time, right? And you can't buy, Amazon or Netflix when they were like, a couple of dollars per stock. That's not gonna happen. You can't go back and do that. But a lot of people get stuck on the idea, right now, I don't know much about stocks, but
There's a saying over there, when's the next best time?
yeah, there's
Now.
always a next best time because there was a point where Amazon was still worth a couple $100, and it was still an opportunity to buy. But a lot of people got hung up on the people that were, let's say, at that time looking at that stock to buy it, got stuck on the idea that they could have bought it a couple years back for dollars. They wouldn't buy it for hundreds of dollars, and now it's thousands of dollars, right? So it's in those. Please, nobody quote me on those numbers because I haven't looked at any of the history of the Amazon stock, but of what it's done in the last years or so. But that's the same thing with real estate, right? Just because you didn't buy a house for $100,000, I thought the prices of houses in 2019 were hitting their peaks, and they a lot of houses almost doubled after that time, right?
Correct.
So
And especially for our city. I mean, we're seeing so much growth in our city, so much opportunity. So it's
There's still
fair,
a lot of
yeah. So
opportunity.
there's a lot of potential. There may be cities like, for example, LA, Los Angeles, where people are saying no. I mean, it just can't go any higher, and it probably won't because they're capped out. What they're seeing is people are exiting, right? The city, they're exiting the state, and so it depends on where you're at. If you're in a city where there's growth, there's job opportunity, there's creation, most likely there's still probably an opportunity for growth and increase appreciation in value. So you need to pay attention to those things so you make the right decision and you don't stay on the sidelines just because everyone else or people that don't really understand real estate are giving you advice. And so I guess with what we're saying here is we know the value we know the value and what real estate can create for you. We know that it has a potential to help you build a financial foundation that can help you and really support you for your generations to come when it comes to kind of growing your assets, growing your income. So we know that, and that's why we're here, and we'll repeat the information over and over and over
Yeah.
because we believe in it,
No, it will.
and it's changed our life. And we are a testimony of it, right? So is our family, but most importantly is we've been able to see this for the last 18 years. I know for you, maybe just a little bit less than 18 years, but you've been able to see this, and we've been able to coach customers in really creating and really starting off with that first property. Like Juan says, maybe they weren't completely convinced. They felt like maybe it wasn't the perfect home, but it was all they can afford at the time. They went for it, and then 3-4 years later.
And the point of that is not to get people to, jump in and buy real estate today or tomorrow. Me and Nora are in this for the long run, so we're happy to help you with the process today or 5 years from now, right? So it doesn't matter if you don't buy right now. All we're saying is that get familiarized with where you stand, know the numbers. To me, the numbers are probably the most important thing. On my side, I know Nora looks at it more a little bit from the emotional side on the real estate side. But I think it's a combination of both, right? You have to look at where you're at as a person, your family. You guys need to move into a house. Is it the right time? All those factors are gonna are gonna impact your decision. But all we ask is that you at least look at it, that you're informed, so that you can make the best possible decision, right?
Correct.
And all we're saying is that if right now it doesn't feel like the right time, maybe it's not, okay? But if you look at the numbers and if you can get yourself into something where those numbers make sense, like I said, in hindsight, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, it's probably not going to make a huge impact. And the important thing is, what I was trying to say earlier is that you get in, because then that's going to lead you into looking at the market a little bit different, staying a little bit more in touch with what's happening with real estate, and maybe capitalize on future opportunities within real estate, right?
Absolutely. So again, we want to say thank you for following us. Thank you for watching this video. If you completed the video.
I do have one program that Loan Depot just came out with, Nora.
Okay, please, yeah.
So it's very recent. So it's pretty much a 3% down program, and they help out with 2%, right? So I'm just gonna go. If anybody has any questions about it, they can contact us, right, Nora? You have all the stuff on there.
Correct.
But it's called Access One, okay? So it literally just got launched, so you can buy a house with as little as 1% down. And the difference, I think there's other banks out there that are doing this, but the difference between our program and the other programs out there, I think, is that we allow that 1% to also be gifted by a family member. Okay, so that's a difference. So in essence, if somebody has somebody that would gift them that 1%, they could come in with nothing, right? All the program needs is a 620 FICO score. You do have to be a first-time home buyer, and I think that's the main requirements. And you can get, like I said, up to 2% for the program that requires only 3% down. There is income limits. Every county is going to be a little bit different. So depending on where you're at, where you're listening from, we can give you that information and see if this program is applicable for your city. Okay.
Excellent. So my friends, thank you again for watching the complete video. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, that you also join us in all of the other platforms. We are committed to creating a lot more content for you guys in English. We've been focused for all of these years, really creating a lot of content in Spanish for a lot of the first-time home buyer community. But we are 100% sure that being able to provide this information in English is now a huge opportunity for many of you. So thank you for asking. Here we are delivering like we promised. And then also we want to invite you to ask a lot of questions. That's what our channel is here for. If you ask the questions, we know exactly the topics and subjects you want to hear. I know that we're preparing some great programs for you in the next couple of weeks around investing, around flipping. Juan, on top of being a loan officer, my friends, is an expert in regards to the investing world, in multifamilies, in the flipping space. And so he will come in with a lot of important and real-time data on what's going on in the real estate investing world. So we're going to provide that all to you here in our channel. So please make sure you stay tuned for that and you ask a lot of questions. Yep.
That is correct.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan, for being here. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.